One of my favorite things about owning a Nintendo Switch is just how many accessories there are to buy for it. If you have a problem when you're trying to game, there's probably a product out there that can help. So today I'm going to tell you all about my favorite Nintendo Switch accessories and how they help me to enhance my gaming. Not as in like a professional gamer, as in like a cozy gamer who needs a more comfortable way to play games in bed. None of this is sponsored, by the way, but I will leave a link down below to each and every one of the products, as I think all of these you can buy off of Amazon if you're interested. To start us off, let's go through the bare essentials. The first one is pretty obvious, and that is an SD card. Now, in terms of which SD card to buy, that's kind of completely up to you. Just remember, it needs to be a micro SD card. And just a heads up, if you didn't know already, you don't have to have one of the micro SD cards that says it's specifically for the Nintendo Switch. I mean, if anything, I'd say stay away from them. They tend to be way more expensive. So my advice is to wait till Prime Day, that's coming up soon, see which ones are on offer, and go for those. But as I said, this is an essential, especially if you're a cozy gamer, because they rarely come out with physical games. Another absolute essential is a Pro controller. Now, I know compared to literally every other controller on the market, this is pretty expensive, but I personally think it's well worth the price. First of all, especially the Zelda one is absolutely stunning. But also, this has motion controls, HD rumble, is wireless, has a good battery life, and also has amiibo support. The other thing I found is these just last really, really well, especially compared to the Joycons. I still have my original that I bought day one of my Nintendo Switch. It's 6 years old and works absolutely fine. And honestly, once you start playing with a Pro controller, it's really hard to go back to the Joycons. It's just so much more comfortable. The other thing that I don't really see people talking about enough is compared to the Joycons, this is so much easier to clean. Although there are quite a few screws, it's actually quite easy to pull it apart and clean in case you get stuff underneath the buttons, like I did once with my older controller. So if you're a messy person or you're giving this to your kids, that's another huge plus. The other staple is, of course, Joycons. And I am obsessed with the brand new pastel colored ones. Now, I did not need more Joy-Cons because I mostly play the Switch alone in my room. However, once I saw them on the Nintendo website, I knew I needed to buy them. And I was not disappointed with the way they look. Now, bear in mind, I do not have color correction skills, so if you want to see their true color, you'll be better off going on the Nintendo website. The main reason I'm obsessed with these is I'm not really the type of person who likes to stick those stickers on my controllers, or even the type of person who likes to get nitty-gritty and change the shells of my Joy-Cons either. For me, I get really annoyed with the stickers that I can't stick them on straight. I always seem to get ripples or bubbles, and I really can't do a good job, and they annoy me, and I end up just taking them off. And in terms of changing out actual hard shells, I am not DIY inclined. Dealing with tiny screws and really little pieces is a literal nightmare of mine, and I know I'm going to lose a part and I won't be able to get it all back together. So to have something that's officially from Nintendo look this cute and aesthetic, I'm obsessed. I love them so much. Another accessory you definitely need on your Switch is a tempered glass screen protector. Now, I don't think it matters too much which one you go for. I'm personally a big fan of tempered glass over just the normal plastic ones. The glass ones seem to be easier to put on, you're less likely to have bubbles. Also, the Nintendo Switch is pretty forgiving in terms of how you place it down anyway. But I have full-on dropped my Switch from chest height, and my tempered glass screen protector took the brunt of the blow. It landed on a hard concrete surface, and my screen protector completely smashed, but when I took it off, my Switch was good as new. I can't recommend it enough because it not only protects it if you drop it, but also stops your screen from getting normal wear and tear scratches as well. The final thing on my essentials list is headphones. Now, obviously, as many of you know, the Nintendo Switch still rocks the headphone jack. However, one thing you might not know, especially if you're running on outdated knowledge, is that the Nintendo Switch does also now work with wireless headphones. It's honestly pretty easy to go into the menu and connect them as well, and this is a must when you're going on long journeys. That's it for my essentials. Let's get into some of my absolute favorites. First off, let's cover everything I take with me when I'm traveling with my Switch. Now, I take this case with me whenever I need to travel with my entire Nintendo Switch. So we're talking dock, Pro controller, everything that goes with it. This is what I take. The main reason I've moved to using this instead of my old go-to is mostly because I can shove this in the car and not really worry about it whatsoever because it's in a nice hard case. This particular one's from Haytop, and I just love the fact that it has room for my Pro controller in there as well. Now, obviously, not everywhere you need to go, you need to bring the dock with you. So for those days, I much prefer this. This is my Geekshare case, and I'm obsessed with it. Now, when you see the close-up footage of this, you're going to see it's a bit scuffed up and a little bit dirty, but that is because I take this absolutely everywhere. Not only is it a hard shell case, meaning that I feel pretty confident whenever I put it in my rucksack or in the car that my Switch is going to be perfectly fine, it's also incredibly practical. Inside, you have space for your games. You can also securely fit your Nintendo Switch in by closing the strap up. And you have this big amount of area at the top where you can store absolutely everything you could need inside of it. And despite the fact this is a little bit chunkier than some of the other cases, it still fits into my rucksack with no problem whatsoever. So this is my go-to every single time I leave the house. One thing about the case, however, is I'm not a big fan of putting my games in these slots here. I don't know what it is about it, but I don't tend to trust them. So for that, I actually have a Nintendo Switch game card holder. If you've been following my channel for a while, you'll recognize this. I picked this up the same day I picked up my Nintendo Switch. And for the most part, it has been really, really good. But as you can see, it's looking very run down. So I finally decided, after all these years of using this case, it was time for an upgrade. And I could not be happier with what I've bought. I just picked this up recently and I am obsessed with it. Not only does it look great, it also has so much room for not only your Nintendo Switch games, but also SD cards if you're someone who needs multiple because you have a giant library. And this can fit more games in than my other hard case. But another reason I adore this is it fits into my Nintendo Switch case really nicely. Also, compared to the other hard case, I find the games a lot easier to get out of this one because it has this rubber material instead of it being completely plastic. So overall, I'm obsessed with this. I'm so glad I bought it. And I believe you might be able to find other styles other than Zelda if this isn't your vibe, which I love. Another absolute essential of mine, especially for long train journeys or plane flights, is this. This is the Hori Nintendo Switch stand. Especially when I'm going on like a long haul flight, sometimes I find gaming with my Nintendo Switch at my lap and looking down can get really painful on my neck. So one thing I really like to do is bring a stand with me, put it up on the little food tray they give you in front of you. You get them on trains as well. And you can play with either your Pro controller or the Joycons unattached from your Switch like that. And it's so much easier on your neck. The reason I love this one though is it's small, it's compact. I can fit it in my Switch case so it doesn't take up too much room when I'm traveling. And it comes with 3 different heights so you can have it at the perfect angle for you to game with. Now, I don't necessarily use this at home all that much, but as I said, traveling, it is a must. Those are my travel essentials done. Let's get into my gaming from home essentials. Now, although I do play my Switch docked quite a lot, the time I need the most accessories is actually when I play my Switch in handheld. I don't really know who the Nintendo Switch was made for, but it seems to be pretty uncomfortable whether you have small hands, medium hands, or large hands. So here are some of the things I've bought that really do help with long gaming sessions in handheld. First up is a Nintendo Switch grip. Now this particular one is Skull & Co, although I know a bunch of different companies do them as well. Just one thing to bear in mind when it comes to grips in particular, this is where whichever Nintendo Switch you own really does come into it. If you didn't know, I think the OLED is only about 1mm bigger than the normal Switch. However, that will mean that some of the really tight grips might not work for you, so do just double check that the OLED will work in the grips that you buy. Now, I will say, after years of using this one has gotten a little bit looser. It used to be incredibly tight to the point where I could turn my Switch upside down and it wouldn't fall out. However, right now, that's definitely not the case, although it is still usable. But this just makes gaming so much more comfortable. I can lie in bed, I can sit down on the settee and game for so much longer without any hand cramp. And the thing I love the most about the Skull & Co one is that it comes with, I think, 3 pairs of grips. So you can really customize it to how big your hands are, what angle you want to hold it at, and everything like that, which makes the gaming experience perfect. I also love the fact that it doesn't take anything away from the look of the Switch. Like, you can keep the aesthetic of your Joy-Cons if you have a themed Switch as well, without kind of taking away from that design, which I love. And it comes in different colors, including a Zelda one. However, that is fully sold out at the moment. And I also love the fact that despite the fact this is years old, it doesn't really look worn down at all, which is incredible considering I bought the white one. The only issue with buying something like a grip is it doesn't really help the core issue of where the buttons are placed or how small the actual Joy-Cons are. If you're looking for a way to make the Nintendo Switch accessible, look no further than the Hori SplitPad Pro. Now, in case you didn't know, my dad has arthritis in his hands, and playing the Nintendo Switch for a long period of time is something he used to struggle with. So I bought them these to see if they would help, and he is absolutely in love with them. Now, as you can see, they're pretty bulky and they're not necessarily the most aesthetic controllers you can buy. Like, you can see, for example, that they stick out a ton compared to the width of the screen. But as you can see, not only are the buttons bigger, so are the analog sticks, making it so much easier to play and hold. And another big bonus is the fact that it has a real D-pad instead of what the Joy-Cons have. But the other thing I love about them is just how many different colors you can actually buy. I think I got these ones because at the time they were the only ones in stock. But at the time of filming this, there are so many different color variations. Some of them are themed, some of them are just colored. So you can really find the perfect ones for your style. But I definitely think this is the best solution if you're someone who finds the Joy-Cons too small or too hard to handle. Just one thing to bear in mind, these don't have a power source of their own, so you'll only be able to play them while you're in handheld mode. You can't also use them when it's docked as well. And I'm pretty sure they don't support Amiibo either, so just something to bear in mind. But overall, great for accessibility. Then we have this skin from Geekshare. Now, one of the reasons I wanted to include this is, one, this isn't a sticker. You don't have to worry about trying to stick it on straight or anything like that. It's purely just a little case or shell that you can put on and off. Like, you can literally just take it off like this if you want to. Now, the reason I included this on my list is it's a really affordable way to customize your Switch. One of the annoying things about the Nintendo Switch is that there's no real easy way to distinguish whose Switch is whose unless you actually physically turn it on and see whose account it is. So this is actually a really cheap and easy way to accessorize your Switch without it being permanent. And the nice thing is, not only does it look great, it also has these little grippy bits at the bottom, which makes the Nintendo Switch easier to hold as well, which I absolutely love. This comes in loads of different versions as well, so you're not stuck with this one. So if you're someone who's looking for a way for your Switch to stand out in your household or amongst your friends so you instantly know it's yours, this is a pretty cheap and easy way to do that. Okay, the next item is gonna look weird, but if you know, you know. It is this. Now, I don't necessarily recommend this brand in particular, mainly because I may be incredibly weak, but this is incredibly difficult to move around. But you'll find loads of these listed on Amazon. So this is basically, I think they list it as like a tablet holder. So it comes with a little clampy bit here. You can clamp it on your bed, and then you can make it so that you can play your Nintendo Switch in bed, hands-free. Now, unless you are someone who chronically plays games in bed, you might not know the struggle that is pins and needles, and also the ability to see the Switch, you know? The annoying part about trying to game in bed is the fact that if you're playing in handheld, you can't lie flat on your back and still be able to play games. You always have to be slightly sat upright, and then I get pins and needles after about half an hour, and I end up having to put the Switch down. So instead, I got this, and this means I can lie flat in bed, live my best life, and game. So what I tend to do is I'll put the Nintendo Switch screen in this part, and then I'll actually game using my Pro controller whilst lying flat in bed, and it is pure heaven. Obviously, this is also super useful if you want to watch movies in bed on your phone or on your tablet as well, because this part here is kind of customizable with how thick it goes. But yeah, I'm not going to necessarily recommend this one because I don't think the build quality is all there, and it's honestly such a hassle to move, but I bought it, so I've just been using it anyway. But I definitely recommend one of this style. And finally, we just have this really cheap little shelf system I got. And the main reason I got this is my collection of amiibo is growing and I wanted some nice way to display them where you can actually see them. Although admittedly, I didn't think it was going to be this big, so maybe get one that's a bit smaller because it is absolutely massive. Either way, it does do the job. You just put the amiibo on, you can do shelf after shelf of them and display them really nicely in a lot less volume. And my only regret is not reading how tall this thing actually is because it's kind of massive. But you get the idea. This is a nice way to display amiibo. Those are my top Nintendo Switch accessories. But if you want to see me rank every single game I played in June, click this video here.